My name is Celeste Harmon. I'm 31 years old. And last Wednesday afternoon, I was sitting at my desk in Seattle when my phone started going off like a fire alarm. One call, then another, then another. By the time I walked out of my afternoon meeting, I had 41 voicemails, all from numbers with the same Ohio area code. Some of those numbers I recognized immediately. Others I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. But every single message said the same thing. Not "we're sorry." Not "we were wrong." The same two words, over and over in different voices, different tones, all asking for the exact same thing. I'm going to tell you what those words were. But first, let me take you back to where everything fell apart, because this story doesn't start with a phone call. It starts at a dinner table in a small Ohio town during the last holiday I ever spent with my family. Before I do that, though, if this story already feels like it belongs to you in some way, hit subscribe. I mean that genuinely. This channel exists because there are people who have lived versions of this, and they deserve to hear their own story told out loud. Drop your city and what time it is wherever you are. I want to know who's in the room with me right now. Okay, let's go back. Harrysville, Ohio, population just under 5,000. The kind of town where your neighbor knows your business before your spouse does, where the same families have been running the same shops for 40 years, and where reputation isn't something you build. It's something you inherit or something you're assigned. I was 24 years old, working 2 jobs, taking 1 community college course at night, and still trying to figure out why every room I walked into in my family's house felt like I was walking into a courtroom. Thanksgiving, November 2017. My mother Claire's house. The table was set with the dishes that only came out twice a year. The kind of dishes that feel less like celebration and more like performance. My older sister, Dana, had recently gotten engaged to a man named Brett who wore khakis even at family dinners and made a lot of eye contact to signal how trustworthy he was. My mother had already started referring to Dana as finally settled, as though settling was the highest aspiration anyone in our family could reach. I'd come to that dinner with one goal, one question. Quiet, reasonable, the kind of thing you rehearse in the car on the way over because you know the room you're walking into. My grandmother, Evelyn, had set up educational savings accounts for both me and Dana when we were children. She told me directly, sat me down at her kitchen table when I was 16, held both my hands, and said the money was earmarked for my future. A specific amount. And nobody, she said, was going to touch it except me. I waited until the end of the meal. Plates half cleared, people reaching for seconds of pie. The room had that warm, slightly unfocused energy of a family that had drunk enough wine to feel affectionate but not enough to get honest. I asked my mother, calmly, quietly, just the two of us within earshot, whether the account Grandma Evelyn had set up was still intact, whether there was anything left in it, whether the money was still mine. The table went still in the particular way that tables go still when everyone has heard something they were pretending not to hear. My mother set her coffee down with the precision of someone buying time. She looked at me. Then she looked around the table at 15 people. And when she spoke, her voice had that specific register she reserved for public performances, warm enough to seem reasonable, sharp enough to draw blood. "This is what I've been talking about," she said. "She does this every time we all come together." Nobody said anything. 15 people stared at their plates or their wine glasses or each other, and not one of them said, "Claire, that's not an answer." Not one. My Aunt Linda reached over and put her hand on top of mine. "Honey, your mother just worries about you." Like that had anything to do with what I'd asked. I excused myself, went to the kitchen, and stood at the sink running water over dishes that didn't need washing yet, because it gave me something to do with my hands. And from the other room, through the gap in the doorway, I heard my mother's voice drop to the kind of murmur that isn't really a murmur, the kind you're supposed to hear. She was telling my Aunt Patricia that the educational account had been redirected. Dana's wedding fund needed it. Celeste doesn't need it right now anyway. She's not going anywhere. I turned the water off. Grandma Evelyn had left $12,000 in that account for me. She'd told me herself. She'd said it specifically and with intention. And my mother had simply decided that my future was less important than my sister's wedding reception catering. I walked back out. My mother was refilling her wine glass, completely relaxed, already moved on. "That money was set aside for me," I said. "By Grandma Evelyn, specifically for me." "You didn't have the right to use it." Claire Harmon didn't flinch. She set the bottle down, folded her hands, tilted her head in that way that told me I was about to watch someone rewrite the last 60 seconds of reality. "You're being dramatic again, Celeste. You always make everything about money. I'm asking about $12,000 that was left to me by name. You sound exactly like your grandmother used to when she'd get upset about something trivial." That stopped me cold. Because my grandmother, Evelyn, was the steadiest, most generous person I had ever known, and my mother said her name like it was a complaint. 15 minutes later, Claire gathered everyone into the living room. I'd seen this move before. Different year, different trigger, same production. My mother standing at the center of the room, hands clasped, voice quivering with practiced grief, performing her suffering for an audience that had seen the show a dozen times but always showed up like it was opening night. "I've kept this to myself for a long time," she said, pressing a napkin to the corner of her eye. "But I think you all should know that Celeste has been struggling. There have been some concerning behaviors. I've been trying to protect her, but after tonight, I feel like you all deserve to know." She gestured toward me like I was a case study. I looked at my father. Douglas was in his armchair with his hands folded on his knees, eyes fixed somewhere near the floor. He said absolutely nothing. I looked at my brother Marcus. He was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, and gave a small nod, not to me, to her. I looked at Dana. She was on her phone, 15 people in that room. Not one asked me if I was okay, not one. I went upstairs, packed a bag with whatever fit. I had about $180 in tip money from the restaurant where I worked 3 nights a week. I took a winter coat, a small wooden keepsake box that Grandma Evelyn had left me when she passed, the one I'd kept closed on my nightstand because opening it still felt like admitting she was really gone, and I came back downstairs. My mother's voice followed me to the door. "If you leave this house right now, don't come back expecting anything from us." I didn't slam the door. I closed it quietly, the way you close a door when you know you won't be coming back through it. Snow had started falling on Harrysville. There were flakes caught in the porch light above my mother's front steps, and I stood there for exactly 3 seconds before I started walking. That was the last time I heard my mother's voice for 8 years. I got to the Greyhound station on Route 9 with enough money to buy a ticket as far as Seattle, Washington. 41 hours. I sat with my bag between my feet and Grandma Evelyn's wooden box on my lap and watched the country unspool outside the window. Ohio flatlands, Indiana cornfields, the wide flat stretch of the Midwest giving way to mountains, then rain, then the gray-green of the Pacific Northwest. I didn't sleep. I spent most of those hours trying to remember a single conversation with my family where someone had asked me something without wanting something in return. I couldn't come up with one. The woman sitting next to me until Denver was a retired schoolteacher heading to visit her son. She offered me crackers outside of Des Moines without asking why my eyes were red. She just held the bag out, and when I took some, she looked back out the window like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. That small grace, offered without explanation or expectation, stayed with me for a long time. Seattle in December. First 2 nights were at a transitional shelter near Capitol Hill. Then a hostel that charged by the week and smelled like old coffee and something chemical. I had no rental history, no local references, no credit score to speak of. What I had was a work ethic that had been thoroughly trained by years of being the person in my family who handled everything that nobody else wanted to handle, and absolutely zero patience for being treated like I didn't matter. Within 10 days, I had a job. Entry-level administrative assistant at a small urban planning consultancy called Brightfield Partners. 9 employees. An office on the 4th floor of a building near Belltown that had once been a garment factory. They helped municipal governments and community organizations navigate zoning reform, infrastructure planning, and neighborhood development initiatives. My job was to answer the phone, manage the calendar, and sort the mail. It was not impressive work. It was a paycheck and a reason to get out of bed. 3 weeks in, I made the mistake of checking Facebook. My mother had posted in the family group a photo of a candle on her kitchen table with a caption asking everyone to keep me in their prayers. "Our Celeste is going through a very difficult time. We love her no matter what. The door is always open." It had over 100 reactions and 30 comments, mostly people praising my mother for her grace and strength. My brother Marcus had commented at the very top, "She always did this to herself." 62 likes. I deleted my Facebook account that night, and I never made another one. I want to be honest with you about what no contact actually costs when you're in your mid-20s with nothing established. It costs health insurance. It costs an emergency contact on every form you fill out for 2 years. It costs birthday phone calls and someone to call when you're sick enough to be scared. When I got a respiratory infection in my second winter in Seattle, I lay on my apartment floor for 3 days eating crackers and drinking water from the bathroom tap because I couldn't afford urgent care and didn't have anyone to ask for help. I didn't call anyone from home. I wouldn't have known what to say. But here's what that silence gave me in return. The first morning I woke up in Seattle and didn't immediately feel that coiled, breathless thing in my chest. The thing I'd carried so long I'd confused it with my own heartbeat. I lay completely still in my hostel bunk trying to identify what was different. It took me almost 2 minutes to understand. My mother's voice, the internal loop of "you're not enough, you're doing this wrong, you always make everything worse," had simply stopped. Like someone had turned off a radio that had been running in the background of every room I'd ever lived in. At Brightfield Partners, the founding partner, a woman named Nadine Acaffer, noticed me on my 3rd week. I'd reorganized the entire project archive, 3 years of disorganized files spread across 2 different shared drives, and a set of physical folders nobody had touched since 2015. Nobody asked me to do it. I couldn't stand looking at the chaos. Nadine stopped at my desk on a Friday afternoon, looked at the reorganized system on my screen and said, "How long did this take you?" "About 4 days spread across my lunch breaks." She pulled up a chair and sat down across from me. "What else do you see in this office that doesn't work the way it should?" I had a list. "I've been making it since day 3. She looked at me differently after that. Not with pity. Not with the particular kind of management speak kindness that's actually just distance. With interest. Like someone who'd found a tool they hadn't known they were missing. While I was rebuilding my life in Seattle, my mother was rebuilding her version of me in Harrysville. I learned all of this much later, from my cousin Teresa, and from an old school friend who'd stayed in touch years after I left. But I'll tell you now, so you understand the full picture of what I was walking back into 8 years later. Within 6 weeks of my leaving, Claire Harmon had told the women's prayer group at St. Anthony's that I'd been admitted to a residential treatment program for mental health concerns. She never specified which facility. She didn't need to. In a town of 5,000, residential program fills itself in without any help. People hear what they want to hear and believe what they want to believe, especially when the story is being told by someone who cries at the right moments. My old apartment, a second-floor studio above a dry goods store on Franklin Avenue, still had most of my things in it when I left. Dana took the furniture. She sold what she could, gave the rest away, and told my landlord I'd abandoned the lease. Marcus posted a series of vague, pointed statuses on Facebook over the following months. Family means showing up even when it's hard. Some people would rather disappear than grow up. Blood is blood, even when it hurts. Each one collected dozens of likes. Each one was about me. My father, Douglas, handled the neighbors and coworkers and church acquaintances who asked about me. He'd stand in the driveway with his hands in his pockets and say, "We just hope she's safe wherever she is." Voice catching at exactly the right moment. Eyes looking up toward the sky at precisely the right angle. He never called me once. So the Harrysville version of Celeste Harmon was a young woman who'd snapped at Thanksgiving dinner, abandoned her family, and vanished into some kind of mental health spiral. A story my mother could carry like an accessory, visible enough to collect sympathy, vague enough to resist scrutiny. I was the family cautionary tale. The ghost. The reason Claire got hugged after church, and they wrote the whole obituary while I was still alive and building something they couldn't see. Year 1 in Seattle was survival. Year 2 was the first time I built something that was entirely mine. At Brightfield Partners, I moved from administration to project support within 7 months. Nadine handed me a small community engagement project for a neighborhood association in South Seattle, a rezoning proposal that needed stakeholder coordination and documentation. I submitted it 4 days early with a revised timeline that reduced the project cost by nearly 15%. Nadine read it, then read it again, and gave me a second project the same afternoon. I enrolled in an online urban planning certificate program through the University of Washington Extension. Classes at night, work during the day. I paid for each course out of pocket, one at a time, because the idea of owing anyone anything felt like a trap I'd already escaped once and had no intention of walking back into. My apartment was a one-bedroom in the Central District that I shared for the first year with a woman named Bryn, who worked overnight shifts at a hospital and was therefore largely theoretical as a roommate. I cooked in bulk on Sundays: rice, lentils, roasted vegetables, whatever was on sale at the grocery store on the corner. I wore the same work clothes in rotation for the first 2 years. I cut my own hair until I trusted myself around good scissors. There was nothing cinematic about any of it. No montage, no triumphant music. Just alarm clocks and spreadsheets and falling asleep over course materials at midnight and waking up at 6 to do it all over again. I wasn't building toward success. I was building toward the specific feeling of never again being at someone else's mercy. The success came later, almost as a side effect. Nadine was the first boss I'd ever had who treated competence like something worth cultivating rather than quietly exploiting. When I caught a discrepancy in a contractor's billing that would have cost the firm nearly $8,000, she didn't just say thank you. She asked me how I'd found it. "I read everything twice," I told her. "Always. It's how I grew up." She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't need to. Some people who have worked hard for their whole lives can recognize it in other people on site, like a frequency. Nadine had started Brightfield from her apartment with one client and a borrowed laptop. She knew what that kind of hunger looked like. She promoted me to project coordinator within my first year, associate consultant within my second. By year 4, I was leading a team of 8 people on a multi-district infrastructure access project that covered 3 of Seattle's largest underserved neighborhoods and had been cited by the city council as a model for community-centered development work. I finished my certificate program on a Tuesday evening. No ceremony. I printed the completion letter at the office, framed it with a $12 frame from a discount home goods store, and put it on the wall above my desk. Nadine walked by the next morning, stopped, looked at it for a long moment. She knocked on my doorframe. "How does Director of Community Engagement sound?" That same season, Priya Anand walked into our office for a job interview. She'd been working in community organizing in Portland before moving to Seattle, and she had a laugh that arrived before she did and stayed after she left. We became close quickly, and not because of work. We got close because of the specific frequency of people who have survived their families. 3 weeks into her time at Brightfield, we were eating takeout at my desk after a late deadline. She asked why I never talked about where I came from. I told her all of it. The dinner table, the money, the door, the snow, the bus, the shelter, the Facebook posts. The version of me my mother was circulating around a small Ohio town. Priya listened without interrupting. When I was done, she sat in silence for about 12 seconds. Then she said, "Mine told everyone I'd moved abroad. I was actually 40 minutes away." "Why?" "Because I came out at 22, and she lives in London now, is apparently more palatable to a Tamil Catholic family than she's gay and she's happy." We sat with that for a long time. And then I cried, really cried. For the first time since the Greyhound ride out of Ohio. On my 5th anniversary in Seattle, I finally opened Grandma Evelyn's box. I'd carried it everywhere. From the shelter to the hostel to the shared apartment to my own place. It had sat on my nightstand through 5 apartments, dozens of deadlines, and one particularly bad winter when I thought about going back to Ohio just because I was exhausted and lonely and couldn't afford to get my radiator fixed. But I didn't open it, because opening it meant accepting that she was gone. And accepting that she was gone meant accepting that the one person in my family who had loved me without an agenda would never again be able to say so. Priya was the one who finally made me do it. "You've been looking at that box every morning for years," she said one evening. "It's not going to get easier by waiting." I opened it. Inside, a pair of small pearl drop earrings she'd worn to every church service I could remember. A photograph of me at age 7, laughing at something outside the frame of the camera, a gap in my front teeth and my eyes completely unconcerned. It was the only photo of myself as a child that I owned. My mother had hung Dana's school pictures in the hallway. Mine had gone into drawers, and a letter. Grandma Evelyn's handwriting, careful, deliberate, slightly unsteady in the way of hands that have held a pen for 7 decades. "Celeste, if you're reading this, you've already done the hard thing. You've left. And I know it cost you something, but staying would have cost you more. I tried to leave when I was your age and I didn't have the courage. I stayed. And I spent the next 50 years managing a woman who only respects people when they're too far away to be controlled. Don't do what I did. Don't hold a family together at the price of yourself. You don't owe anyone your life. There was a postscript, the education account. I gave instructions to my attorney, a man named Caldwell on Prospect Street in Columbus. Ask your Aunt Teresa. She was there when I signed the paperwork. My hands were shaking so hard I had to set the letter down. Because I understood something all at once, something I'd spent years misreading. My grandmother used to say at family gatherings, "Keep this family together, Celeste." She'd said it on the phone when I called her crying after arguments with my mother. She'd said it in front of everyone with my mother in the room. I treated it like an instruction, a directive, my grandmother telling me what she needed from me. It wasn't. It was what she said in front of Claire because Claire was watching. The truth was in the letter, folded into a box, hidden in plain sight. She hadn't been asking me to stay. She'd been telling me as privately as she could to go. Year 7. Nadine sat across from me at the small conference table in her office and offered me a title I hadn't been aiming for when I stepped off a Greyhound 8 years earlier. Vice President of Programs and Community Development. Brightfield Partners had grown to over 90 employees and 2 offices. We'd been recognized by 2 city governments for our work in housing equity and neighborhood infrastructure. We'd been featured in a Pacific Northwest regional business publication in a piece about women reshaping the landscape of urban development consulting. I wasn't wealthy in any obvious way. I drove a 7-year-old car. I lived in a nice but modest apartment in the Montlake neighborhood. I had savings and health insurance and a retirement account I actually contributed to. By the standards of the girl who'd slept in a transitional shelter in December, I was breathing air that girl wouldn't have believed was available to her. The magazine profile was 1 paragraph on my work and 3 on my background. Receptionist to VP in 8 years. Arrived in Seattle from a small Ohio town with no connections and 1 bag. Built a career from the ground up in urban development. The publication put my headshot on their website. My name was searchable. My story, at least the professional version of it, was public. My family, back in Harrysville, Ohio, had not searched for me once in all of those years. Not 1 Google search, not 1 check of LinkedIn. They were so committed to the story that I was broken and gone that it apparently never occurred to them to verify whether I was still broken and still gone. And then, a random Thursday in February of this past year, my sister Dana finally typed my name into a search bar. She wasn't looking for me. She was looking for a lifeline. I found out the details later from Teresa, my cousin, who told me everything with the careful detachment of someone reporting on a disaster they saw coming for years. Dana was 33, recently separated from Brett. The separation wasn't clean. There were lawyers and contested accounts and a house that needed to be either sold or refinanced. Brett had moved out and stopped contributing to the mortgage. Dana needed to refinance on her own, but her credit was in difficult shape from several joint decisions she and Brett had made during better years. She needed a cosigner. My mother's credit had been wrecked by years of overspending. My father was on a fixed retirement income. My brother Marcus had a pile of student loan debt and a freelance design business that had never quite become what he'd hoped. Dana thought of me the way you think of a flashlight you stored in a kitchen drawer 3 years ago. Not fondly, exactly, just with sudden practical interest when the lights go out. She typed my name. First result, LinkedIn. VP, Brightfield Partners, Seattle. Second result, the business magazine profile. Third result, my company bio on Brightfield's website, with a quote from Nadine about me being the person who holds the whole architecture of what we do together. Teresa said Dana stared at the screen for almost 2 minutes without moving. Then she called my mother. "Mom, I need you to look something up." "What is it?" "Celeste, she's a VP. At some real company, she's been in a business magazine." The sound on the other end of the line, Teresa told me, was not pride. It wasn't joy. It was the specific sound of someone watching a story they've been telling for 8 years catch fire in their own hands. A sharp, short exhale. The kind that comes when the version of reality you've been maintaining suddenly shows you a crack. "That can't be right," my mother said. She couldn't finish the sentence, because finishing it would require acknowledging that the instability she'd narrated, the breakdown she described at prayer groups and dinner parties and over coffee for nearly a decade, was a story she'd told, not a fact she'd witnessed. My phone started buzzing during a staff meeting that afternoon. Then again. Then it didn't stop. By the time the meeting ended and I got back to my office, I had 41 missed calls, all Ohio area codes, all in the same 14-hour window. I closed my office door, sat down, and started listening. Voicemail 1. Dana, light, casual, the tone of someone who's rehearsed this. Hey, Cease, it's Dana. I know it's been a long time. There's something I really need to talk to you about. Call me back, okay? Like we'd last spoken 2 months ago. Like there was nothing between us except a scheduling gap. Voicemail 8. My father. Halting, uncomfortable in the way he always was with any sentence that involved emotional content. Celeste, it's your dad. Your mother and I have been going through some things. We could really use some help navigating it. Give us a call when you have a minute. Voicemail 14. My mother. Controlled, clipped, holding herself together the way she always did when she was performing composure for an imaginary audience. Celeste, this is your mother. I don't know what's been going on with you out there, but family is family. We need to speak. Voicemail 22. Marcus, apparently mid-snack. Yo, Cease, it's Mark. So you're doing the whole corporate thing, that's cool. Hey, look, I've been working on something. A creative agency, basically. I just need a little seed money to get the branding right, and I figured maybe you'd want to invest in something of mine. Just give me a call. Voicemail 35. Dana again. The casual tone was completely gone. Her voice had frayed at the edges. Celeste, I know you're getting these. I don't know why you won't call back. I need help. Please just call me. I really need help. Those last 2 words, over and over in different voices at different volumes. Sometimes collected and deliberate, sometimes frantic, sometimes soft and almost childlike. Help me, not I missed you. Not I'm sorry for everything. Not I was wrong about what I said and wrong about what I let Mom say and wrong for standing there while she performed your breakdown for every person we knew. Just help me. 41 times, 0 apologies. I listened to every single message, some of them twice. Then I set my phone face down on my desk and looked at my ceiling for a long time, long enough for the light in my office to shift toward late afternoon. I called Priya. She picked up on the second ring. My family found me, I said, a pause. Which part is hurting? The part where I'm not surprised. We let that sit. Priya knew better than to rush past that kind of silence with comfort. 8 years. 8 years of therapy and early mornings and learning, slowly, ungracefully, with enormous effort, how to trust people again. How to let myself be known by people who actually wanted to know me. 8 years of building something real. And the moment my family re-entered the picture, it wasn't because they'd found me. It was because they'd found my job title. I wasn't a person to them. I was a resource that had inconveniently turned out to be functional after all. I set my phone to silent. I didn't block the numbers. Blocking felt like reacting, and I was finished reacting to the Harmon family on their timeline. What are you going to do? Priya asked. Nothing different. I have the Harrysville thing in 2 weeks. You're still going. It's a professional commitment. I don't cancel professional commitments because my family can't manage their own behavior. She laughed. Okay, VP, go handle it. I should back up and explain the Harrysville thing. 5 months before the voicemails, my cousin Teresa had sent me an email with a subject line that just said, "Please read this." Teresa was my mother's younger brother's daughter, technically extended family, but she'd been a quiet presence at the edges of my childhood, always watching more than she spoke. We'd fallen out of touch when I left. Her email was 3 paragraphs, and unlike most messages from people who have been silent for years, it didn't start with an excuse. I should have said something when it was happening. I knew what your mother was doing with Evelyn's accounts. I was in the room when your grandmother set them up. I saw the paperwork, and I did nothing when Claire redirected the money because I was afraid she'd do to me what she was doing to you. I'm sorry. She told me about the accounts in detail. Grandma Evelyn had used an attorney named Caldwell in Columbus to set up the educational funds. $12,000 for Dana. $12,000 for me. Separate accounts, separate signatures required for any disbursement. My mother had submitted withdrawal paperwork with a signature that wasn't mine and consolidated both accounts. Teresa had been present when the original documents were signed and had recognized immediately what happened, but said nothing. She also mentioned, at the end of the email, that my mother was the chair of the Harrysville Annual Community Betterment fundraiser that spring. I didn't understand why that mattered yet. 2 months later, Nadine came into my office holding her phone like it was something she'd found unexpectedly valuable. You know a pastor, someone Rawlings? He runs a church in some town in Ohio. My whole body went still. He's on the board of a small community development nonprofit. They do an annual fundraiser, apparently pretty well attended. They're looking for a keynote speaker, someone with a community development background and a personal connection to small-town revitalization. He reached out through our professional network. She looked at me over her phone. I told him I knew exactly the right person. Which town is it? Harrysville. I hadn't told Nadine where I was from. She didn't know my family. She didn't know that the woman chairing the event was the same woman who told half a county that her daughter was institutionalized. You grew up in a small Ohio town, right? Yes. Then this is a natural fit. You'd be perfect. The word no was sitting on my tongue. It was right there, assembled and ready. Then I thought about that letter in Grandma Evelyn's handwriting, about standing in the snow outside a closed door, about 8 years of someone else's story circulating through a town that had never once heard from me. I'll do it, I said. Send them my bio. After Nadine left, I Googled the Harrysville Community Betterment Fundraiser. The event listing had Claire Harmon as committee chair. The venue was the Town Civic Center on Elm. The date was February 21st. I texted Teresa, I know about the fundraiser. I'm the keynote speaker. Her reply came in under a minute, I know. I didn't tell your mother. Get ready. 2 weeks before the event, Dana sat at her kitchen table and Googled my name. Teresa was there and told me later that Dana spent nearly 3 minutes with my LinkedIn page open before making the phone call that started everything. In the meantime, the voicemails happened. The emails followed. My mother wrote to my professional email, the one listed on Brightfield's website. Subject line, your mother, Celeste. The body. After everything this family has sacrificed for you, you can't return a single call. I spent 8 years telling people you were getting the help you needed. I protected you from the questions and the rumors, and you repay that by ignoring us. I always said you were selfish. I suppose I was right. I read it twice. I saved it. I didn't reply. Dana sent a LinkedIn message the next day. I can see you're doing well for yourself, but family is family, Celeste. I need someone to co-sign a loan. It's not a complicated ask. You owe us that much. That word, owe. The Harmon family's primary currency. Marcus posted on Facebook, public, tagged to extended family. Funny how some people build a career and suddenly forget where they came from. This family was there for you every step of the way, and now you're too important to answer a call. Hashtag ungrateful. Hashtag family first. 44 likes. 13 comments, all supportive. I screenshotted everything. Not for a lawyer, for myself. For the mornings, and there would be mornings, when I might second-guess my memory of all of this. When the familiar fog of self-doubt that I'd spent 8 years in therapy learning to recognize might roll back in and whisper, maybe you're being dramatic. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe you should have tried harder. The screenshots were evidence. Proof that I could hold in my hands. Teresa texted a few days later. Your mother found out you're the keynote speaker. They're all going to be there. I flew into Columbus on a Thursday, rented a car, and drove southeast through gray February farmland. An hour and 20 minutes of flat Ohio landscape, fallow fields, bare tree lines. The occasional grain elevator rising out of flat ground like a monument to nothing in particular. Harrysville looked exactly the same, which was somehow the most disorienting thing about it. I had changed completely. The town had moved approximately 1 inch. The same hardware store. The same diner with the same sign. St. Anthony's white steeple visible from the highway. Everything preserved like a photograph, like a place that had decided the world was moving too fast and had simply opted not to participate. The Civic Center on Elm Street had been decorated by someone who understood the assignment. White tablecloths, rented centerpieces, a banner above the entrance that read, Harrysville Builds Forward. Annual Community Betterment Fundraiser. 180 chairs, almost all of them full when I arrived through the side entrance designated for speakers. I checked in with a volunteer at the registration table, a woman maybe 10 years older than me, someone I half remembered from church as a teenager. She looked at my badge, smiled, and said, Ms. Harmon, welcome back. Pastor Rawlings has been so looking forward to this. I don't know if she connected the name. I wore a dark blue blazer, white silk blouse, hair down. My speaker badge read, Celeste Harmon, Vice President, Brightfield Partners, Keynote Speaker. Through the door to the main hall, I could see the tables. Teachers, shop owners, church members, the school principal I'd had in 7th grade, the fabric of a small town that had, for 8 years, been hearing Claire Harmon's version of me. And at the center table, in a cream-colored blazer with her hair freshly styled and a smile that she wore like a piece of formal wear, my mother. Committee chair. The woman who'd organized this entire evening. Gerald was beside her, Dana in a new dress, Marcus near the back of the room, phone out. None of them had any idea. Pastor Rawlings was a tall man with a calm, resonant voice and the easy authority of someone accustomed to holding a room's attention without effort. He stepped to the podium just after 7. "Good evening, Harrysville. Thank you for being here to invest in our shared community." Tonight's keynote speaker embodies exactly the spirit of this work. She grew up in a small town, built her career entirely on her own terms, and today serves as vice president at Brightfield Partners in Seattle, a firm whose community development programs have touched the lives of tens of thousands of families across the Pacific Northwest. She's been featured in regional business coverage as one of the most impactful voices in urban development consulting. Please welcome home Celeste Harmon. Applause. I stepped out from behind the curtain and walked to the podium. The spotlight caught me, and for one full second I was 24 again, standing in a living room in November while my mother gestured toward me like I was a problem she was presenting to a committee. Then I looked at the room. 180 faces. Some I knew, some I'd never met. And at the center table, 4 faces I knew better than any others. My mother's smile disappeared. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Both hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles pale against the white cloth. Even in the shock of that moment, I could see her eyes moving, scanning left, scanning right, assessing who was watching her reaction. Even blindsided, her first instinct was audience management. My father's water glass hit the table with a crack, sloshing onto the linen. He looked like a man who'd suddenly remembered something he'd spent years trying not to think about. Dana's hand went to her collarbone. Her mouth formed a word, maybe my name. No sound came out. Marcus stopped mid-chew. His fork actually stayed suspended in the air for a moment. The room stood. The entire room, the teachers, the shop owners, the church members, the people who'd prayed for me on Sundays while my mother accepted their sympathy, rose from their chairs. My mother sat perfectly still, the only person in the room who didn't stand. I let the applause settle, adjusted the microphone. Took a breath. "Thank you, Pastor Rawlings. Thank you, Harrysville. It really has been a while." A ripple of laughter. A few knowing looks exchanged between people who'd already recognized me. I gave my keynote. 22 minutes on community development funding structures, grassroots organizing frameworks, the specific challenges faced by small-town nonprofits applying for state and federal grants. Professional, substantive, the kind of presentation I delivered at a dozen conferences. And then, near the end, I made a turn. "I grew up in a town like this one. Some of you may remember me." A murmur went through the room. "I left Harrysville 8 years ago with a bag and about $200. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because the cost of staying had become something I couldn't afford." Silence, the heavy, attentive kind. "I was told I was unstable. I was told I wasn't well. What I actually needed wasn't treatment. It was distance." And it was someone in Seattle who looked at me as a person, not as a narrative, someone who asked what I was capable of rather than what was wrong with me. I paused. Let the room sit in that. Community development, the real kind, isn't ultimately about zoning codes and grant applications. It's about whether the people in your town feel genuinely seen, not the version of them that's convenient, not the story someone else is telling about them, the actual person in front of you. I didn't point at my mother's table. I didn't say her name. I didn't need to. In the 3rd row, my 7th grade English teacher pressed both hands over her mouth. The man beside her turned and looked directly at my mother's table. The whisper network fired up like a generator. "That's Claire Harmon's daughter. The one she said she's a VP. She was at a conference. She's been in print." When I finished, the room stood again. Longer this time. Several people were crying. I heard one woman near the back say my grandmother's name. My mother did not stand. She sat as though bolted to her chair, her napkin in both fists, her face the color of something exposed too long to weather. The networking portion became something else entirely. People I hadn't seen since high school shook my hand and touched my arm. My 7th grade English teacher held me long enough that I heard her shoulder pop. "Your grandmother used to talk about you," she said. "She knew exactly who you were." My mother arrived like a front moving through a warm day. She cut through the crowd with a smile screwed on so tightly it looked structural, a load-bearing expression. 20 people within earshot. She wasn't going to make a scene. She was going to perform graciousness. "Celeste, sweetheart." Her arms opened for a hug that was really just staging. I didn't step into it. "You had my number, Mom, 8 years." The smile adjusted. She lowered her voice, moving closer. "That speech of yours was a bit pointed, don't you think? I didn't name anyone. If people connected dots, I can't control that." Dana appeared at her shoulder. "We've been trying to reach you, Celeste. We really need to sit down and talk about some family things." I got all 41 voicemails. I listened to everyone. Not one of them said, "I'm sorry." Every single one said, "Help me." Those aren't the same message. Gerald materialized at the edge of the group, voice low, eyes aimed at the middle distance. "Celeste, we don't need to do this here in front of everyone. Dad, you had 8 years to do it somewhere else. You chose not to." Marcus, hovering behind them. "You think you're better than us now, big city VP?" "No, I think I'm done spending my energy being smaller than you needed me to be." I straightened my jacket, nodded once toward Pastor Rawlings, who was watching from near the stage with an expression that landed somewhere between witnessing and understanding, and walked toward the exit. Measured steps. No running, no slamming. I'd done enough of that 8 years ago. I sat in my rental car in the Civic Center parking lot for about 25 minutes with the engine off, both hands on the wheel, breathing. Through the lit windows, I could see people clustered in groups, some of them looking toward the door I just walked through. The Whisper network was running at capacity. By morning, every kitchen table in Harrysville would have a different version of the evening, but none of those versions would have my mother at the center anymore. I called Priya. "It's done," I said. I said what needed saying. "How do you feel?" "Like I'm 31 years old for the first time." She laughed. I almost did too. I drove back to my hotel in Columbus. That night I opened my laptop and wrote one email. To my mother, my father, Dana, and Marcus. "I'm writing this once. I'm not co-signing any loan. I'm not investing in anyone's business concept. I'm not sending money. I don't say this out of anger. I say it with complete clarity. If any of you want a genuine relationship with me, not a transactional one, not a performance of family, not a series of asks dressed up as reconnection, it begins with a real conversation. One where someone says specifically and honestly what happened. Not we did our best. Not that's all in the past. Not family is family. An actual acknowledgement of what was done. The fund that was taken, the lies that were told about me to this entire town, the 8 years of silence that ended only when someone found my job title. Until that conversation happens, I wish you well. But I'm not available for what you're asking. I read it twice. Changed nothing. Sent it. Closed the laptop, turned off the light, and lay in a hotel room 3 miles from the town where I grew up, listening to Ohio be quiet for the first time in 8 years. A week after the fundraiser, I tracked down Grandma Evelyn's attorney, a man named Caldwell who had retired several years earlier and was living in a condo on the east side of Columbus. He was in his early 80s. He remembered. "Your grandmother was meticulous," he told me over the phone. "She set up those accounts very specifically because she didn't trust your mother to handle them appropriately. She made me keep the original signature documents in a separate file, away from anything else. When my mother had filed the disbursement paperwork with a forged signature, he hadn't found out until afterward. The statute of limitations had long passed by the time he learned the full story. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have caught it." The $12,000 was gone. Legally, there was nothing to recover. But I'd been thinking about what Grandma Evelyn would have actually wanted, not restitution, not revenge. Something that bore her name and did what she'd always believed education could do. I contacted the financial aid office at the University of Washington and set up a small annual scholarship funded from my own salary. It was specifically for students who were financially estranged from their families, students who listed "no family contribution" on their aid applications, not because their families couldn't help, but because their families had chosen not to. Students who were rebuilding from scratch. Students who were doing exactly what I had done. I named it the Evelyn J. Harmon Community Scholarship. The university published the announcement on their website. My name, my grandmother's name, a photograph from the box, 7-year-old me with a gap in my front teeth, and Grandma Evelyn behind me with her hands on my shoulders and her pearl earrings catching the afternoon light. It wasn't about recovering the money. It was about making sure her name meant something that outlasted my mother's version of events. She'd spent her whole life being careful and quiet in a house where carefulness was a form of self-preservation. She never left. She was afraid. And she died surrounded by people who had never understood her. I named a scholarship after her. Let them Google that. Teresa called me 4 days after the fundraiser. I let it ring twice before picking up. She was already crying when I answered. "I should have said something," she said. At every single Thanksgiving, every time I watched what was happening to you and I just sat there. "You're saying it now. It's not enough." "No, but it's a start." Silence. "I need time before we build anything, Teresa. I mean that. What you did by reaching out, by warning me about the fundraiser, that matters. But trust isn't something I can just turn back on because the person who should have been honest years ago is finally being honest now. It's going to take time." "I understand," she said. Her voice got steadier. "Can I tell you what's been happening there?" I leaned back. "Go ahead." The town hadn't stopped talking, apparently. Claire Harmon could not go to the post office without someone quietly adjusting their posture in her direction. My 7th grade English teacher had mentioned the evening to her Bible study group, and the account had been thorough. Pastor Rawlings hadn't made any public statements, but he'd called my mother and had a gentle but final conversation about the committee. She'd resigned the chair position, announcing publicly that she was choosing to focus on family during this season. The irony of that sentence, Teresa told me, had not escaped the town. Gerald had moved his things into the guest bedroom. Not a separation, officially, just a closed door that had never been closed before. Teresa said she'd been at the house one afternoon and heard Gerald, through the kitchen window, speaking to my mother in the backyard. "You told everyone your daughter was broken," he said. "You said it to the prayer group, to the women's ministry, to anyone who would listen. And she stood on that stage in front of all of them and showed them exactly what she'd been doing while you were telling her story. She didn't have to say your name, Claire. She didn't have to say a single word about you. She just showed up." My mother's response, Teresa told me, was that she had turned the entire town against her. Gerald's response, "No, you started that 8 years ago when you decided a lie was easier than the truth. She just let the light in." It was the first honest sentence my father had spoken on my behalf in my entire life. Too late to repair what had passed between us. But maybe, just maybe, not too late for him to become someone I could one day talk to. Dana lost the house. Without a cosigner, the refinancing fell through. The bank completed the foreclosure 60 days later. She packed what she could into a storage unit and moved back into my parents' house in Harrysville, into my old room. Teresa told me this with the careful, factual tone of someone delivering news about a structural failure, sympathetic but unsentimental. "She's sleeping in your old room," Teresa said. "The one with the nail holes along the south wall where you used to hang things." I didn't say anything for a while. "Is there still a pencil mark on the doorframe where I used to measure my height on my birthday?" "I don't know, probably." The golden child. The one who'd gotten the fund and the toast at Thanksgiving and the first hug from every relative who walked in the door. Dana was 33 years old, divorced, without a home, sleeping in the room of the sister she'd never once defended. Did I feel satisfied? Honestly, a little. I'm human. But what I felt mostly was something more complicated, something adjacent to grief, because Dana had never been given the actual tools to build anything of her own. Everything in her life had been constructed by my mother, the school, the social connections, the fund money redirected to pay for her wedding reception decorations. And when all of that scaffolding came apart, there was nothing underneath it. No resilience she'd developed on her own. No confidence earned through difficulty. Because she'd never been allowed to face difficulty. Being the favored one, I'd come to understand, is a different kind of damage. The bars on that cage are just shinier. Dana didn't apologize. Teresa reported that she'd begun telling people privately that if only I'd helped when asked, none of this would have happened. Still pointing, still rewriting, still a Harmon. But Teresa also told me something she'd seen one evening. Dana standing in the doorway of my old room, running one finger along a nail hole in the wall. The one where I'd hung the only photograph of Grandma Evelyn I had owned. She stood there for a long time. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, in the room that had been mine, and ran her finger over a small hole in the plaster like she was trying to read something left behind. Marcus's moment of reckoning came from his girlfriend, Simone, a nurse practitioner from the next county over, who saw his Facebook post. She didn't say anything publicly. She said it privately, while packing an overnight bag. You publicly called your own sister ungrateful for refusing to give you startup money. That's not someone I want to be with." Marcus deleted the post within the hour, but screenshots had already been circulating through Harrisville's text chains. He was 28 years old and was apparently only just learning that what you say on the internet has weight in the real world. Simone left anyway. And then, 6 weeks after the fundraiser, an envelope arrived in my office mail. A white envelope, my name on the front in careful, slanted handwriting. The penmanship of someone who writes slowly because the words matter. My father's handwriting. I opened it at my desk. "Celeste, I don't know if I have any right to this, but I want to say it anyway. I'm sorry, not for your mother, for me. For every evening I sat in that chair while she rewrote what was happening in that house. For every time I told you not to upset her when what I should have done was stand between you and the thing that was hurting you. I wasn't keeping the peace. I was keeping my own comfort. You deserved a father who would have chosen you, especially when it was hard. I didn't do that, and I'll carry that." I read it twice, put it in my desk drawer. Did not respond. It was the first apology I had received from anyone named Harmon. From the person I had least expected it from. I didn't know yet what it meant or where it could go, but I kept it. 3 months after the fundraiser. A Sunday evening in June, Seattle. I'm standing in my kitchen stirring pasta while Priya and my neighbor Elliot argue about whether anchovy paste belongs in a vinaigrette. Nadine is on my couch with a glass of wine, telling a story about a grant proposal that went sideways in a way that was genuinely spectacular. 2 colleagues from Brightfield are setting my dining table, the one I bought at an estate sale in Fremont. 6 chairs, oak, scratched in a few places, entirely mine. This is my Sunday dinner. Every week, same people give or take. No obligation, no performance. No one performing a version of themselves for an audience that doesn't care. Everyone here because they chose to be. I look around the table when we all sit down, and I think about a longer table set with my mother's best dishes in a house in Ohio where I was wallpaper. This table is smaller. The plates don't match. The wine is reasonably priced. Nobody is giving a toast about anyone's accomplishments. I have never in my life felt so completely seen. My father's letter is in my desk drawer at work. I haven't written back yet. I'm letting that decision develop at its own pace without forcing it into a shape it isn't ready to take. My mother hasn't contacted me since I sent the email after the fundraiser. Dana hasn't either. Marcus sent a one-word text 3 weeks ago. "Sorry." No period, no follow-up. I saw it. I haven't responded. I don't know what comes next with any of them. And for the first time in my life, I'm genuinely at peace with not knowing. The door isn't locked, but it isn't open. It's simply there, waiting for someone to knock with something real, with more than 2 words, with something that sounds like an actual reckoning rather than a transaction with better manners. Until then, I have pasta. I have this table. I have people who asked me who I was before they asked me what I could do for them. That is enough. That is more than enough. If you've been listening this long, I want to say something to you directly. If you've recognized yourself anywhere in this story, the one in the family who gets blamed for everything, the voicemails that only arrive when someone needs something, the narrative someone else constructed about your life while you were busy actually living it, the family that went silent for years, and then reappeared the moment they found out you had something they wanted, I need you to hear this. You're not unstable. You're not selfish. You're not ungrateful. Those words, the ones they reach for when you refuse to make yourself small enough to fit back into the role they assigned you, those words are not a diagnosis. They're a control mechanism. They're the sound of people losing their grip on a story they never had the right to tell in the first place. The 2 words my family said were "help me." The 2 words I needed were "I'm sorry." Those are not the same request. That the door I'd closed behind me in the snow was proof of something wrong with me. I know better now. Family, real family, the kind worth protecting, is a choice made on purpose. Not out of shared blood or shared obligation or shared financial need, but out of genuine desire for the other person's presence. The people around my table on Sunday evenings didn't show up because they owed me. They showed up because they wanted to be there. That's the difference. That's the whole thing. The bravest act of my adult life wasn't walking out my mother's door with $200 in my pocket. It was not walking back through it when they finally called, and all they had to offer was a request dressed up in family language. My name is Celeste Harmon. I'm 31 years old, and the most valuable thing I own isn't a title or an income or anything you could put on a resume. It's the knowledge that I am not what anyone else decided I was. At that the story they told about me for 8 years was fiction, and that the true version, the one I've been living quietly, steadily, in a city they never looked for me in, turned out to be better than anything I could have written for myself the night I closed that door and walked into the snow. Grandma Evelyn once told me, "The one who says the least in a room usually understands it the most." She was right. I was paying attention. I just finally decided to pay myself first. That's my story. If you made it this far, thank you. I mean that. If you're sitting at a table where nobody really sees you, if you're wondering whether you're allowed to want something different, if you're carrying guilt about a door you closed in order to survive, I hope something here gave you permission to put that guilt down. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to build something that belongs entirely to you. You're allowed to let people earn their way back rather than letting them walk through a door they never bothered to knock on. And if your phone rang tomorrow with a number you hadn't seen in years, I want to ask you something honestly. What do you think they'd say? Help me, or I'm sorry? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more of this, real stories from people who chose themselves when it mattered, everything is in the description. There are more voices down there. More people who understand what it costs to leave and what it's worth. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.